Good evening, everyone. Just me here so far. Paulo said he might be a little late. We'll see where Wilson is. He's probably setting up his computer again. But I figured I'd come on here and see who was around. And man, I got a lot of comics this week. Being that the distributor lost the boxes of DC and Image going to my shop last week, they came in this week. So I ended up with 14 comics. I think 6 of them were from last week. Plus 2 I got off of eBay. Couple of Bronze Age things related to that Submariner stuff I've been buying. So I'll show you that tonight. What else will I show you? A little Grendel. I think it was last week I was talking about Grendel Devil by the Deed Master Edition that came out. Also got a new issue of the new Grendel series too, but I also went back and reread Grendel Batman. I didn't post the link. Sure I did. It's in Facebook, isn't it? Oh, I never hit the send button on the link. That's what I never did. Now that you got it. There you go, Paulo. I cut and pasted the link, but didn't hit send. So it was sitting in my little message thing. I've been running around here for the last half an hour trying to get some stuff out for bad ideas. So I'm a little flustered at the beginning. But we should have Paulo on in a minute, shouldn't we? But as I was saying, I went back. When did these come out? 93? Kamiko was still around. Or Comico. There's Paulo. There he is. Hello there.
There I am.
Let's see. When did this come out? 1993. I reread the first Batman Grendel with some terrific covers. I don't think these were ever reprinted.
I think they were. I think there's a Batman Grendel which reprints the 2 crossovers. I have the Brazilian edition for the second one with Grendel Prime.
I was looking to see if there was a Batman Grendel trade paperback or something, and I couldn't find it.
I think there was. I'm pretty sure there was.
I would think so. I mean, why? You know, I would think so, but I just did a quick search for it on like eBay, and it wasn't anywhere, or Amazon.
Let me see if I can go find the other one. Let's find some Brazilian edition Batman Grendel.
Brazilian edition Batman Grendel. But I have to say, this who did this? It was Matt Wagner, writer, illustrator. Joe Matt, the late, great Joe Matt, is the color artist. And Ken Brunzenak is the letterer. And this is hand lettering. I think this was before the age of digital, 93.
Yeah.
But man, it was, first of all, I have to say, I don't know if your average Batman fan is going to like this. Not because of anything going on with Batman, but because this was when Matt Wagner was kind of in his lots of little panels storytelling period. I don't know if your average like Batman superhero fan, so there's of course some big panels too. I don't know if your average Batman superhero fan, this would be up their alley.
Probably not.
Probably. That was one of my big takeaways from. I enjoyed it, of course. I'm a Grendel fan.
But
I'm a Matt
it
Wagner.
might work for those people who bought the Batman one shots and Elseworlds.
Maybe.
But didn't buy the regular title.
Yeah. because just in reading, it's very it's not decompressed. These 2 issues are like 4 issues worth of stuff because he's got so many small panels and there's so much going on in it. The plot is rather, complicated in that Grendel decides to come over to Gotham City to have some fun, basically.
Yeah. So this is this is the second. Yeah, it's the second Batman Grendel, and I think the publisher got it because it was licensed through Dark Horse, and the first one was still made by Kamiko.
Right. But and
it's got all the Frank Miller type.
Yeah.
TV.
That's what he was doing, a lot of small panels.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I don't think your average Batman fan would be down with that because it reads so differently than a normal sort of Batman comic, and it's so complicated in that Grendel is spending a lot of time like setting up his plan.
But the second one is more like a Batman story. Because here is Grendel Prime showing up like his Terminator, and it gets right down to the action. So they don't because Grendel Prime doesn't have a personality.
Right.
They don't spend time going over his motives.
Where's the other one I haven't read yet?
But Matt Wagner is a great Batman.
Yeah, he did. And this one too, there wasn't like a big fight until the end.
But and even then, it wasn't
that, because it was like in the first issue there was only one confrontation between them, I think, and all it is Batman's on a stakeout and Grendel pushes him off a building. Like Batman doesn't even see him coming. He's like, "Crap! I didn't even see that guy coming. He was so quiet."
Yeah. Of course, Grendel Prime doesn't act like it's very different. It would be easier because I guess to Batman, fighting Grendel Prime is a bit like fighting Killer Croc.
Yeah.
Because he's not Grendel Prime is not. I mean, he's a resourceful soldier.
Right.
But he's not a smart fighter.
Right.
And Grendel Prime, he kind of exists in a semi-post-apocalyptic world, and this is a fully functional civilization. And Batman function, even though Batman fights in a crime-ridden area, it is a full functioning civilization.
Right.
So things that you need to work as a crime fighter, they work here. So it helps him find and defeat Grendel Prime.
It's like they didn't even need, like, Grendel Prime had to come back from the future, right? In that one?
Yeah.
Like in this one, they didn't need any. That Hunter Rose just popped over from New York.
Yeah.
Say, hey, I'll come over to Gotham.
Yeah.
But and the second issue, we like I said, some great shots of Grendel too. He's such a good graphic designy character. And in this, there's like 2 confrontations, and in one, like, Batman manages to track him down to this museum where he takes him by surprise. Grendel just runs away. That was his whole plan. He didn't want to fight Batman then. He wanted to run away. So like that one wasn't much of a confrontation. Finally, we get a confrontation at the end. And once again, it's not a huge fight scene because he gives us these little, panels of Batman and Grendel fighting. But eventually, Batman wins the fight and breaks Grendel's arm. But Grendel kicks a kid off the building and Batman has to go get her. So he gets away.
Right.
So Grendel was like, damn, he broke my arm. And it ends with Grendel going something like, that guy's too much like me to go over there again. I'll stay in New York. But good, like I said, I don't know how many regular Batman fans would like it. Good evening, SBPT.
Mhm.
Good evening, Friar Tuck. Good evening, Friar. Yep.
And
His
it's like I
covers in
said,
some issues of Detective Comics were the best Batman covers I ever saw. I'll have to look those up.
it works for people who are familiar with Batman but don't want to hang around for the continuity.
Right, right.
I suppose it's more of a Grendel story than the second one, because the second one, even though there are bits that function as part of Grendel Prime's continuity,
Mm-hmm.
it is more of a Batman story here.
Right.
And I think Matt Wagner kind of he grabs little bits of everywhere. It's not just the way that he has the Frank Miller TV screens.
Right.
Because Grendel Prime hides in the sewer, which kind of reminds you uh, of the parademon that hid in Gotham sewers in Cosmic Odyssey. Cosmic
Okay.
Odyssey. Yeah.
How are you
And,
doing
and it,
tonight, Wilson?
I'm doing okay. It's a hot day. Since
Yeah.
we're talking Batman Grendel, I
Batman, because
pulled it.
I just reread these 2 issues this week.
Oh, okay.
So,
And once I saw that, it was like, oh, I had recently seen my beat up copy from an old magazine called Heroes Magazine. It was
oh
like a
yeah.
wizard magazine, and they gave out a Batman Grendel ash can.
Oh, okay.
So it's hard to see, but there's a foil on
Yeah.
the ash can. This is from Heroes Premiere issue number 2.
Okay.
And so Hero gave an ash can. So it has some Matt Matt Wagner artwork in it
Yep.
about him putting together this book. This is from 1993. And some concepts, some
Oh,
influences,
that's cool.
basically what he was thinking of when he was putting together that first book.
Right. That's pretty cool. I didn't know that existed.
And some black and white artwork. I don't know if these are just like the first few pages,
Let's see.
or
Let me
if
go
these
big. Let's see what it
are
looks like.
concept stuff. It looks a little scratchier than his usual stuff, but it might just
Yeah.
be because it's in black and white.
Oh, I think I saw that one page with Bruce Wayne and Grendel at shaking hands at the place. That might be an actual page.
Right. So these might be the first few pages of from inside the book.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
That
been
Batman.
so long since I read the issues.
This is the first time I've read them since '93.
Yeah, I'm almost sure I did get the books. I have
Yeah.
not seen them probably since '93.
Yeah,
To be
those are
continued.
definitely
So
pages from in here. But what's weird about these too is it's like one's called Devil's Mask and the other's called Devil's Riddle. And there's like not a
yeah.
1 and a 2 on them.
Huh.
It's like weird because they go in order. And here it says book 1 of in the indicia it says book 1 of 2 and book 2 of 2, but not on the outside. Oh,
Yeah.
no, on the
Yep.
spine it says 1 and 2.
Okay,
Yeah.
so those are you're following that graphic album format.
Yeah, only on the spine right there does it say 1
Yeah.
and 2.
Yeah. So
Okay.
the second one does the same thing. So the first one is Devil's Bones, and the second one is Devil's Dance.
They kind of make it hard to read
Yeah.
them. Good thing there's only 2 of them. But $4.95 in 1993 wasn't a cheap comic, was it?
No, it was not.
These must be 48 pages, I would guess.
Yeah, and they were prestige format.
Yeah, yeah. But really, really good stuff. I like I said, I enjoy, and the lettering especially impressed me in this. Was it Ken Brunswick? Brunswick.
Bruzenak, yeah.
Bruzenak. Bruzenak. I could never say that name. So I didn't have it and see it enough times. And like I said, Joe Matt is the colorist, the cartoonist who did Peep Show.
Really?
But like he had script balloons for Grendel. I'm never big fan of script. But he had there was 3 narrations. There was Batman's narration, there was Grendel's narration, there was main character woman 1 and main character woman 2 and their narration, and they were all very distinct. Each caption box had different colors and different lettering, and the blonde woman with it was a weird thing. The blonde woman who has gold caption boxes also had this thing where hers was like torn notepaper. I guess because she was a reporter. That must be why it is.
Right. So
Because
she's
hers
writing
looked like
it in
a
writing
piece
it in her notebook.
Right. And sometimes even a letter would be torn off the side. Oh, and that's right. And Grendel, one of the things in here is Grendel he had diaries he wrote. So that must be where his his lettering comes from, when it's in script and looks like pages of a diary, torn out of a diary. So that was his. So they had 2 like notebook ones, and Batman's was just like a mechanical font on blue. And then the other woman, what was she?
So he was probably typing it on the computer.
Right. The other woman who's more funky and artsy, I think she ran an art gallery, had this more handwritten. Oh, some of it's more handwritten in purple, and you notice it's also askew sometimes because her, point of view is a little askew. So the lettering in here was terrific. They managed to do things with the lettering that you don't see too often, and it was all easy to read and distinct. Because sometimes when you're reading a comic that has like multiple narrations, and the only difference usually is a color, like one person is white, one person is red, I lose track over time. And I'm like, who was this again? I always have to check it. But with this, I never lost track. Each voice was pretty distinct, and each lettering style was very distinct. So special shout out to Ken Bruzenak doing the letters on this one, who first came to fame doing some really nice stuff on American Flag with Howard Chaykin, if you remember that. Did you make it to the comic shop this week, Wilson?
I did not. I spent the 4th of July in a pool, so I was not going anywhere. My buddy Eric had his annual 4th of July barbecue, so I went over to his place in Westchester and just hung out there for the day.
That's
ate some
nice.
food, went into the pool, and just relaxed. I even slept in this morning because I was exhausted. I was going to go to the comic book shop, but by the time I was getting some of the work that I wanted done, it was like it would be too late. I would probably be getting home within the next half hour if I went out the time I thought about going out.
Well, I got enough comics for the 3 of us.
Wonderful.
Evening comic rack. Because as you remember, 6 of my comics didn't come in last week.
Right.
So I think I ended up with 14 comics at the comic shop this week. Plus I got 2 from eBay, which I got because of Wilson. Let me show you these 2.
What did you get?
I got Giant Size Supervillain Team Up #1 and
Oh, wonderful.
giant-sized supervillain team-up number 2.
Fantastic.
Because for those of you who don't remember or weren't here for last week, Wilson brought up supervillain team-up. And he's like, I always wanted to get that, fill in what I didn't have of that series. And I said, I always meant to also, but I never did. I said, I think I've got all the issues. I don't know. So I went and checked, and I don't have all the. I'm missing 1, 4, 5, and 7. Plus these. I forgot there were giant size ones.
They predate the ongoing series.
Yeah, they're
because you'll notice that the first batch of giant sizes were kind of experimental. That's why there's a giant size superheroes and the giant size superstars.
And with reprints too.
No. They're not reprints. They have original stories. They're a mix. They're a mix of both. Yeah, they're a mix of both. But they all have original stories. And superheroes as Spider-Man, and superstars in Fantastic Four. And issue number 2 of Superstars becomes Fantastic Four. So giant size creatures became Werewolf by Night. And after so even supervillain team up started as those 2 giant size issues quarterly, because they were trying to see if they could do a sort of anthology with supervillains. And then they morphed it into the ongoing monthly title.
This one looks like it came out. It's got a March 75 cover date, but a copyright 74, which means it came out in December 74. But this one has writer-editor Roy Thomas, and the artists are John Buscema and Joe Sinnott. Janice Cohen, colorist, and Artie Simic, letterer. But the beginning of this one is something. The Roy Thomas writing makes it very unreadable for me. Especially when I hate Roy Thomas tying continuity together stories. I just find it annoying. So this story takes place after Fantastic Four 144, where Dr. Doom blows up on a space station. I don't remember that one, but we have Dr. Doom falling from space, landing in the ocean, and Submariner rescuing him. So that the first few pages are all about tying it into tying into continuity. This great panel from John Buscema of Dr. Doom being revived. And Submariner's like, haha, I saved you. Now I want us to team up. Dr. Doom's like, screw you. We're not teaming up. We are natural allies. So they get some more Roy Thomas continuity of them when they teamed up. And then we get a reprint of Submariner number 20, which is by Roy Thomas, John Buscema, Johnny Craig on the inks. Artie Simic lettering it again. So we get all of Submariner number 20 is reprinted, which is Dr. Doom and Submariner not teaming up, fighting each other. And then I don't know where this story is from. This man, this demon. It's got from somewhere, but it's by... The writers are Roy Thomas and Larry Lieber, and it's by Larry Lieber pencils and Frank Giacoia. Larry Lieber and Frank Giacoia artists, Vince Coletta inker, and Sam Rosen. So
is that one of the Astonishing Tales?
I don't know.
Let me check.
I have zero idea where it's from. So we get this, once again, it's a Dr. Doom. Oh, it's a Dr. Doom versus Diablo story.
Is it a 10-pager?
No, it's longer than, let me see how long it is. It seemed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 pager.
Yeah.
21 pager, 22 pager,
Okay.
21 pager.
That title is credited to Marvel Superheroes Presents number 20.
Ah,
Okay.
And that
okay.
was
Yeah,
a book from 1969.
that
And
makes
it's
sense.
Marvel Superheroes Presents issue 20. Doctor Doom's on the cover. So I
Yes.
guess it
Ah,
must be reprinted from there from 1969.
okay.
Yeah. It looks like okay, since Lieber does the first half of the book, so that was probably some sort there was probably some sort of ongoing that went nowhere, and Roy did the rest of the story.
Aha. I see. Yeah. But Diablo pretty much kicks Doctor Doom's ass till Doctor Doom sends him into space. And the funny thing is, Doctor Doom forgets he has a time machine.
It was merely a ploy by Doom.
Diablo's like, why don't we use your time machine, your greatest weapon? He's like, yes, time machine. I completely forgot about that. What? I think that was in this one. But interesting artwork.
What's interesting also is the beginning of that book.
Did Wilson freeze? Did everyone freeze on us? Did I freeze? No, what? Paulo's still here.
I'm still here.
I just heard Wilson say, what's interesting is at the beginning of that book, and then I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, things froze up on me.
Okay.
The beginning of your book with the Doctor Doom falling from the sky and landing in
Right.
the ocean. That's basically how the second Fantastic Four movie ended. And I think that was going to lead up to that particular story. If they had continued that series, that movie franchise, I think the next movie, the third movie, would have been Namor. Because
And
they
then
did the same thing with Doom. They dropped them in the ocean.
Yeah, they end it with Doctor Doom and Namor fighting and not teaming. And Doctor Doom walks out of the ocean. Namor's like so mad, like, we'll team up. The Summoner and Doctor Doom shall fight again side by side, and they shall topple the world. And then the funny thing is, with the second one, we get Doctor Doom trying to get Submariner to team up with him, and Submariner won't.
Scored me once.
So this one is all new. Nice splash page there. And it's by Roy Thomas again, making it nearly unreadable. Holy cow. I just looked at the art mostly. And it's by Mike Sikowski and Sam Granger. I was like, Mike Sikowski, and the art is nice.
Quite a combination.
Colorist, Phil Rachelson is the colorist, and John Costanza the letterer. But it starts with Submariner just sinking this giant tanker for whatever reason. He's got this. Where is it? He's got this underwater ship with drills on the front of it. So he just drills through the hull. So yeah, I'm sinking, you guys. Had something to do with it. I think Atlantis is all in stasis in these ones. And then all of a sudden, Atlantis is invaded. We get some Atlantis invaded panels. And it turns out it's invaded by Doombots of some androids, but Dr. Doom's face is on one of the androids talking to him. I would give you more information, but I couldn't pay attention to the Roy Thomas story. Time machines are so unmemorable, says Lee. Yeah, you forget. Doom's got so many weapons, he forgets he has a time machine.
It's unimportant. It's just something I picked up in Costco.
So once again, it's Roy Thomas. The villain is Andro. this android villain with lots of android that he goes, oh, remember, where's the once again, it's Roy Thomas cleaning up continuity by bringing back some other old character from some random issue no one's ever heard of. Here we go. There's the big splash of Andro.
Uh-huh.
And it says, you know me from 3 years agone, when I had another name, when my face was shrouded like an ancient mummy's. Now I am Andro. Then you called me Doomsman.
Oh,
No
God,
relation to Doomsman 2 in the latest issue of Fantastic Four. Andro's referring to the now classic Astonishing Tales 1 through 3.
Yeah, that actually makes it more confusing.
Yes.
You know me, but I could look completely different from the last time you saw me, and I have a different name.
Yeah. So,
But I'm now a new character, so
and,
I was newly invented.
and that's, to me, Roy Thomas in a nutshell. Like, did you All-Star Squadron that he wrote in the 80s? I could not read that at all. It was just like it was like Golden Age character tie-in here, Golden Age character tie-in there. Sensing a lot of love for Roy Thomas. Yeah.
So you know, there's a secret to making Roy Thomas bearable. You have the Brazilian translator from the 70s and 80s work on his dialogue, cuts out 2/3 of it. There.
I got to say, I really enjoyed the Mike Sikowski, Sam Granger art. Oh, I just realized.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like when you say it doesn't seem like they mesh well.
Yeah.
Because Granger is like one of those modern inkers, and Sikowski's a Golden Age artist.
Right. But it looks like it's nice stuff. I got to see. This is some of the nicest Sikowski I've seen. With but I just realized that I was going to say, and there's inexplicably a reprint of Spider-Man. No, I can't tell if it's 5 or 6 back here. And I just realized it's because of the Living Brain, another android. I didn't realize that when I was looking through it before.
That's not an android. Does anybody tell Stan Lee the definition of android?
I don't know if they actually said it was an android in it, but it makes sense now going with them reprinting that in this first story with Andro. At least, because I was like, why is there a Spider-Man story in the back of this? That makes no sense because of the robot. But it was fun getting these. I paid. That brings another contemplation I've been having. Ooh, I don't like these bags that have a sticky thing on the back.
I prefer them. I like that they self-close.
The stickiness just gets in my way sometimes. But like I said, I was looking up to see on eBay how much the supervillain team-ups I didn't have cost. And I saw I'd forgotten about the giant-sized ones altogether. But since I was looking for supervillain team-up #1, if these popped up. And I'd say, I think he had them rated at this one at like a 6, because there's a lot of rubbing on that black. And this one at like a 6.5 or a 7, which I'd agree with. They're both pretty solid. But it got me because I was also looking for more of those Submariners. Oh, by the way, I also found, because remember how I said there was 14 of those Marvel 10th anniversary Submariners? Turns out there's a 15th.
Really?
Because there's a Submariner special #2. There must be a #1.
It's an annual.
I figured it's just called special for some reason.
Right. This in 71, 72, they were called specials instead of annuals.
But there's one of those with a 10th anniversary cover.
They're just reprints.
By Bill Everett, though. I mean, the cover is the only reason I want it, but it's got a nice Bill Everett cover on it. But it got me to thinking about how much like I said, the two of these were together, $20 shipped and tax. And it got me to thinking, how much are these really, like in a comic shop? Because I never look at back issues. Last time I would run across Supervillain Team Up, these would probably be in the dollar bin. But that was the 90s. Are like Bronze Age comics like this in the dollar bin or in the $5 bin? I have just no idea. Because
I
I've been,
haven't seen a comic book shop with a back issues bin.
yeah,
You know, Midtown is the closest because they do carry issues in the store.
but
But
you got to
for
go up,
Bronze Age stuff, you're better off going to their warehouse
right?
in Brooklyn to look for something Bronze Age. And the last time I did that was probably three years ago, or maybe even 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
With like the last time I've been to those, and when I was looking at their back issue stuff, Bronze Age stuff was at the lowest price was maybe
Yeah,
$7.50. So I don't even know if anyone has a dollar bin
yeah.
anymore. And I haven't been to a comic book convention that is really about comic books. Most of
Mm-hmm.
them I've been to pop culture shows.
Right. It just
So,
got me thinking because I'm still missing, I think, 4 of those Submariners, and of course 4 of the Supervillain Team Ups if I want them. But I was paying from $10 to $12 for those other Submariners. But like I was just looking at I think it was issue 44, but the prices on them vary and the quality on them varies so wildly that I'm just like, what is it? Because like the one I'm trying to track down is, I think it's issue 44. It's the Submariner and Human Torch. In the $5 bin, says Sleep. Yeah, that's what I would think. Because like I said, but I find like comics that'll be in the $5 bin are probably $10 on eBay because of shipping and tax, which is what I end up paying. What Silver and Bronze Age lighters do you like? I remember you didn't care for Stan Lee, Jared. Yeah, I do not care for Stan Lee. I like Steve Gerber, Jim Starlin, Bill Mantlo to an extent. Who else do I love? I'm not a Jerry Conway fan. Jerry Conway, Len Wein,
Steve Englehart is always
Steve
the correct
Englehart. I
answer.
like.
He's
too.
always the correct answer.
Yeah, Steve Englehart I like too. But like Len Wein and Jerry Conway and like Roy Thomas were always kind of the same to me.
Mm-hmm.
Except Roy Thomas's was wordier. I didn't
Well,
like them. I've grown to dislike Roy Thomas's overwritings now.
you know,
What?
between Len and Marv, I prefer Marv.
Marv Wolfman, he was okay.
No, between Len and Marv, I prefer Marv always. Which is kind of, I know it's kind of odd, but I do.
Yeah, I liked Marv Wolfman, and Gene Colan, Tomb of Dracula. I liked Marv Wolfman and George Perez's Teen Titans. Like I said, it's not going to tell you it's my favorite writing, but it was fine. But like, yeah, he was fine.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of dollar bins and some 50-cent bins. Everything will be more expensive around New York City. Probably that, especially in New York City. Listen, my shop doesn't even have any dollar bins at all. Engelhart and Mensch. Yes, I liked Mensch because I was a Master of Kung Fu fan. Steve Engelhart I liked too. I forgot about Mensch. Yeah, Master of Kung Fu was good stuff. And like I said, I was okay. The other ones I was okay with. They just didn't really do it for me. Marv had more high points than Len. Yeah, I can't think of what is Len Wein's signature book.
Something.
Yeah, you're right, but I didn't like that at all. And he wrote Spider-Man too, right? He and Conway switched off on that.
Yeah. Marv ends up writing Spider-Man in the late 70s.
Right.
He introduces Black Cat.
Okay. All that Spider-Man stuff to me was just mediocre. I was buying it, but it was like mediocre. No matter who was there was to me there was no good writer on Spider-Man. They're all solidly mediocre. No matter who was doing it. Yeah, but thinking of like I was trying to get that 44. And it's got the border around it is white, which makes it even harder to get a good copy of. And as we know, people on eBay can't grade in general. So, whoever graded this guy could grade. His grades were fine. But plenty of that issue 44 of Submariner, the white border is brown or tanning. It's also a book that's off kilter a lot because it's in the border. You can really tell when it's off kilter because the Marvel Comics up top doesn't line up. There's too much space down the bottom or up top. It's really off center a lot of that. But it's like you will see a copy that's like a 4.0 that someone wants $40 for. And you'll see a copy that's 5.0 that someone wants $20 for. I mean, it's that crazy. And just as I started looking, I gave up on this one. It was the nicest copy I saw there, but it was actually an auction. So the bid was going, and I think it ended up being about $22, the end. And I was like, but getting them for 10 or 12, I don't want to pay $22 for that issue. And so I was looking all week and a half. I'm looking, I'm checking them. There's just outrageous prices, not good conditions. And I finally ended up getting one. It's not here yet. I just got it. I finally decided to get it today. There was one in a lot with two other Submariner comics, not the 10th anniversary Submariner comics, but just before. I think they're like issues like 38 and 39 or something. But I didn't have either issue. But the price on that one was $30 plus tax and shipping, but make me an offer. So I sent an offer of $20 in. I'm automatically rejected. And the guy never got back to me.
Right.
So finally I'm like, what am I kept questioning myself. What am I doing here? Am I paying $30 for this one issue? Or am I paying $10 a piece for these three issues? What's in like? I have to wrap my mind around that. So finally, this morning, after looking like for a week, and I finally went, you know what? If I can get this for $30, I'll get all three issues, including the one I want. So that's what I ended up. I sent them another offer at like 24, and it was automatically accepted. And I went, all right, $30. I got the issue I want coming, plus two others that I don't have. Maybe, But I was like, I'm really sitting there going, how much am I willing to spend on these? I don't really want to spend more than 10 because they're probably $5. They're actually a lot of them $5 comics. But if you buy any one specific comic, you're going to end up paying $5 shipping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sleepy's talking about some Roy Thomas. I think Thomas had some high points on Avengers and Conan, but his artists, uncredited co-plotters may have had a lot to do with that. Yes. That is true. Left to his own devices when he's trying to tie up continuity is, to me, the worst Roy Thomas. eBay went from bargain place to the bleeding edge high price place. Yeah, it can be. If you have to look around on eBay.
You have to look around. You have to do homework.
Yeah, you have to be
you
patient.
don't be afraid of making an offer.
Right.
Because and don't go right away and buy it. Hit
Right.
and go away for a minute. And within a day or two, they'll send you an offer as well.
Right.
And you can accept the offer or then make an offer of your own, and you can save a couple of bucks that way.
I was looking at so many of those Submariners. I got tons of offers on Submariners I didn't want.
Yeah.
Because it would have cost me, even with the offers, with shipping and tax, $20 to get that issue brown.
Right.
Like the cover, not the inside pages are always going to be brown, but the cover was a little too brown. And they had ones with like big creases in them, color breaking creases that they wanted $25, $30 for. And I'm just like, are you nuts?
Yeah. There's people who aren't doing their homework. They search for the book, they see a price and go, okay. And then sometimes what's amazing is when they do take the they'll also even copy the condition without knowing what the condition means. Like I've
Right.
seen one that I was looking for, and the person wrote that it's near mint condition, and it said on it graded, and then he writes in the description, self-grading, but I'm not a professional. Then why put a grade number? Why attempt to grade it when you have no idea what the grading system even is?
See, I don't mind that if the grade they quote is somewhere near the grade it is, but it often is. I saw some that they don't even say I'm not. It's like near mint, and I look at them and they're battered. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not just a little off from near mint. They're threes.
Yeah.
I'm like, really?
Completely off because they may not even know what near mint
No,
means or
I don't think they
the
do.
initials, because sometimes they'll
Yeah,
just copy the initials over
right.
and
Yeah.
not even know what it is. When I first started on eBay, I was trying to grade. I never number grade them.
Right.
I always stayed in mint near mint. I even had for a long time that owl card. I
Uh-huh.
forget what OWL stand for. That was an acronym for something that got from the Overstreet Price Guide one year. So it was a card that told you the Browning number
Uh-huh.
of what the inside of the book
Oh yeah.
is. So I remember that was a grade I would put on the books, but eventually people ignore those. So I just stick with the mint near mint condition, and I never wrote anything was ever mint because mint
Right.
is so subjective that
I
I never got any
the
high.
the first time I got my hands on a wizard, I saw the the gradings for the first time. I said, why is fine better than good? And I imagine there's a lot of people, because there's a normal world definition of the of how you use the word fine and how you use the word good, and that can confuse people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I still remember reading, never trust a grading system where good really means crappy.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, good is average. Fine, which means fine,
Yeah.
is 7.5, and good is 5.
Yeah, good is not good.
Good is average.
Good. Yeah. Good. Like, and then fair.
Lots of photos and little text is key for eBay comic sales.
Yep.
Yes,
Yeah.
but the key to buying good comic sales sometimes is finding the one with bad photos and taking a chance on. Like I said, bad photos that you think might actually be a good comic. I've noticed that too. Because
Yeah.
you can get a bargain because the guy doesn't know how to take photos.
Yes.
I mean, they can be crappy comics too, but something like for at least one of those Submariners, I've maybe two of them. I was like, I'll take a chance on this because it was cheap because the guy obviously wasn't selling it because the photos were so crappy. But I could tell from the crappy photos that it was in solid shape.
Right. Exactly. Because sometimes you get good
Near
deals
mint equals more clicks.
on people's laziness and people's misspelling. You
Mm-hmm.
could get good
Yeah.
deals on that because something might be sitting there for a while because they spelt it incorrectly and no one's actually looking at it. I've seen things like that, or sometimes I'll do a generic search on something just to see what they have up and whatnot. And sometimes they'll put the wrong thing. I recently picked up a Mego Batman. It's a metal Mego toy. Those usually go for a couple of $100, even when they're beat up. I got mine for like $25 because the guy listed it as something else entirely, something from that same time period, and that item existed. So when he went to look it up, he just looked up old Batman toy,
Right.
saw the first thing he saw, and posted it up as one of those a few dollar toys. when it was really something a little more expensive. It was missing the cape and whatnot, but I've seen some in worse shape go for a lot more money. And it's just the luck of the draw when you're looking for stuff, what someone may put up because they have something, may just want to get rid of it because they got it for pennies because
Right.
they bought somebody's lot and didn't bother to do the homework.
Yep. Common Crack says that's my favorite. Misspelled listings are just plain wrong. Sleepy says it's ironic. It's ironic you were more relying on eBay than you. Yeah. Well, that's just because I don't like back issue shopping. Kind of. I don't go out to, and it's funny because like, is it Sleepy has like 3 or 4 comic shops within walking distance of him,
Oh, I'm
and
jealous.
and I really don't know. I don't even know how many comic shops are left in my. I go to the same one I've been going to for ages. It's about 20 minutes away, 20-minute drive away, and there might be. I know a lot of people like on YouTube who go back issue shopping. Um, will go to like all the comic shops within an hour's drive of them. I don't even know what comic shops are within an hour's drive of me. I mean, there's got to be a bunch of them, but I just don't know. Comic back issue digging, record digging, I could do that for hours. Yeah, see, I haven't done that since the 90s, really.
Yeah.
So now it's eBay. And what's weird, it's tough, like just like I said, just collecting these because I know I could get them cheaper at a comic shop if that was because like paying shipping and tax doubles the price on cheap books. If I was buying like, $300 books, it'd be online where I could really save some money. But buying $5 books, I end up overpaying, but it's like, I make up for it in time,
Every now and then, when it's like, if I'm going to a convention into a place that I haven't been to, what I usually will do is do a search for the local comic book shops because I
Ah,
do make it a point to try to visit them when I'm in a new
right,
city, just to check out what they look like. And there was one in Maine that I really enjoyed. That was a lot of fun because it was in a basement of like a shopping area, and it had like each store in that basement with like a different little thing. So there's like a Chinese store, a Chinese food place, a pizza shop, and then the comic book shop. And I thought
ah,
that was just a lot of fun. And they had some back issues,
yeah,
not that many, but they had some back issues, and that was fun to go to because I do like the fact that almost every single comic book shop I've ever been in is never a cutter shop. Where
right,
like if you go into like a FYE, you know where everything kind of is
yeah,
located. And Suncoast Video was the same way.
right,
But a comic book shop, even if it's a chain shop, like Midtown Comics is part of a chain, each shop is so designed
right.
differently that I always found comic book shops to be very interesting to go into because it's
You
always going
never
to be
know
a
what you're
different
gonna find.
experience. Never know, and it's interesting to see what is the shop owner's favorite thing. Is
Yeah,
it comic books? Is it toys? Is it posters? Because you could spot like
yeah,
what is that main guy's focus on things too.
yeah. And when Sleepy Reader was a kid, he had to go into New York City and visit his grandmother to get back issues. Ooh, that sounds like fun. Yeah, my family didn't and still doesn't go into New York City. So I never got to go into New York City as a kid. I always hearing stories of like all the city kid growing up. People go, oh, I used to go to this, even if it's not comic shops, like in the 60s and 70s, there was always some like magazine shop that had back issues. And they were like, ooh, they used to
Yeah,
love to go there.
in the '80s, it was fun comic going to get comic books in New York City because we hit places like the Village, and
Huh,
they would have different areas because you have Forbidden Planet in the Village, and it was a really big store at the time.
right.
And around the corner from there, there was is a bunch of little smaller shops, And depending on the day, on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, each shop got their comic books on different days. And there was one shop in the village that would get the comic books first and then try to sell those comics to the other shops. And sometimes people would be like getting their comics in one shop, figuring out what's the hot book of that week and trying to overprice it before the regular comic book shop would get it 2 days later. And it got crazy for a little while too. That particular shop almost got banned from buying comics because I think DC came down and was like, "You got to stop this. You can't." They were almost over buying books to get that big discount,
Yeah.
and then reselling those books to the shops that didn't get them yet.
Huh.
So it was like, wow. And these are stories that I've heard about.
Wow. SBPT. I love back issue digging. It's the best part of a comic book shop. My only problem is I'm getting old and those damn boxes are always on the ground. It says I need to get a small bench. Yeah, one of those portable gardening benches. That's what you got to bring with you. And Sleepy says, if I were you, I'd always start with Lone Star Comics. Lone Star Comics, I do actually always start there. And for like mostly for the indie back issues I want, they're great. But for like Bronze Age comics, they're twice as expensive as eBay. This comic, this one's probably the 6.0. This would probably be $20 instead of 10. Because I have looked for all of the Submariner ones on Lone Star too, and they're twice the price. And they don't even have pictures of their lower grade stuff. If it's a 6.0, they have a stock image. So it's like, and once you start getting up into the 6s and 7s, it's twice the price of eBay, even with tax and shipping. So like the Lone Star, great for the $3 indies that I'm looking for. Not great for Bronze Age Marvel. Eric P. I grew up with a couple of good shops in town, but I did drag my mom to a couple in Boston in the 80s that were sketchy. The 80s had some sketchy comic shops, didn't they? Let's see, Comic Crack. We went to a small town called Winkler yesterday. Paul Pope, Battling Boy, in an issue of Fantagraphics anthology called Mome. I think I have an issue of that. $3 Canadian each. Last thing I expected to find. Very religious town. Wow. And as Wilson said, you just never know, right? Super Snipe in Manhattan was that was the place? Like heaven to 12-year-old me. Get one of those gardening benches for kneeling and sitting. Yeah.
There was a time when we had 3 shops in Lisbon, and the third shop was more expensive for individual issues. But they had one row, which was good because they had mini series packs. So if you wanted to get something cheap to read, because those were more like $5 3 issues, and $7 4, something like that. It was something that since people don't usually pick up mini series the same way, especially if the characters are lesser known. But there was some good reads that you could find there. You could go and let me read this. It's $5, 3 issues. I'm not betting anything. And sometimes you find some interesting gems.
Yeah.
I mean, not polished, not super amazing, but satisfying.
Right. Oh, I have another complaint this week. First, I'll show you a couple of comics. Where are they? Complaint isn't about the comics, but I'll show them to you. I got Radiant Black, 29 and 29.5. This is the one that's split up where there's 2 guys. The first guy who wore the Radiant Black suit nearly died. So he was in the hospital and his buddy took over. So then when the first guy got better, they kind of split being Radiant Black. Then they got involved in some big universe war. And eventually, I think this has been going on for about 4 or 5 issues now. They said only one of you can be Radiant Black if we're going to survive this. So it's split off into alternate worlds. In one world, guy number 1 is Radiant Black, and in the other world, guy number 2 is Radiant Black, fighting this war. So it's been going on like that, and one of them failed, and one of them didn't quite fail, but succeed. And in this issue, it kind of brings the story back together again. So it's been an interesting little experiment with 2 issues coming out at the same time. I have to say I've enjoyed it. But my complaint with Radiant Black has nothing to do with the comic, but has to do with a Kickstarter, a Radiant Black Kickstarter. I don't know if you guys remember, but like 3-4 months ago, there was a Kickstarter for a Radiant Black / Massive Verse card game. I like cards, like buying cards. Okay, I hardly ever play the game because no one around here plays, superhero card games that I know. I should go to the comic shop where they do it. I think there's one nearby. But I was like, I was just kind of tempted by it. I was like, should I get it? Should I not get it? And I ended up, it was $38. I was like, that's pretty expensive for a card game. Do I really want that? And in the end, I went, you know what? Why not? I'm going to get it. I get the card game. It's not supposed to be out to the fall. Well, it turns out shipping wasn't in that $38, which happens sometimes with Kickstarters. They're like, oh, we'll figure out the shipping later. It's like, okay. So, and a lot of people now use like third-party fulfillment services. So I actually got from a third-party fulfillment service, where they have to collect your address and whatever and your shipping number, your shipping fee. The shipping on this thing is $22.
What the hell?
I was just like, what the hell?
That makes no sense. What is the weight of these cards?
I don't know.
How many cards are you getting?
A little box of them about that big. I think it's like 60 or 100 cards, maybe, plus a couple of extra packs. Clearly, the third-party company is taking at least half of the shipping fee as their fee.
Yeah.
Because $22 to ship is crazy. I was like, you know what? And of course, I had to pay it because otherwise I don't get my cards.
Right.
But my $38 cards have now turned into $60 cards. And I was iffy about the $38.
Right.
So I was just like, that is the last time I buy something like that physically from Kickstarter. I'll stick to digital. I mean, I've already done that mostly with the comics. But with this one, I was like, 30. I thought the shipping was included because $38 is fairly expensive for a small card game. But it's I'm sure small, but I'm just like, I'm going to see this on Amazon for $28, shipping free in like 6 months. So I was like, So I had to pay $22 for shipping on that card game. I was just like, made me grit my teeth. But that's what, like I said, nothing to do with Radiant Black, which is a good comic, but the Radiant Black card game is what got me. Connecting covers. The Catalyst War. That's the name of it, by the way. Well, those are the first 2 of the 14 comics at my comic shop this week. I mean, $22 for shipping does sound outrageous, doesn't it? On a $38. Yeah.
It completely does.
Yeah.
$7.95 is an outrageous price for shipping that I've paid on stuff. And I know, again, because of shipping so many things out, I know the price of what a comic book costs for shipping.
Right.
And I know the price of, weight and size and stuff like that. That's way too much money. I hate paying for shipping.
Oh, yeah.
I really do. Because it's just that, I know people who are, in their mind, it's a business. People are going to pay whatever they're going to pay for shipping. they don't care. But it's like for me, I try to get it as close as possible. But I
Right.
know that there are sellers that try to add a little more to the shipping so they can get money from that as well.
Right.
So it's like and
That's what I like.
eBay is one
I
of those
only pay
companies that
attention to the
don't mind.
total price on
Yeah.
eBay, especially. But like I said, I I don't remember thinking about the shipping when I ordered this, so I must have thought it was I didn't know it'd be an extra $22. That's just nuts. Like I said, clearly the fulfillment guys are at half of that is going to fulfillment.
Yeah, it would have to be. That's the only thing that makes sense, and it's like that's just way too much money. I would put a complaint that look this. I understand that you're going to have someone else do the shipping, but that's not a reasonable price.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not. They may not even be aware what the shipping is when because shipping changes so frequently
Yeah.
as well. Oof.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
SBPT, thanks. At RFP, Jared Osborne. I will. Comic shop should have it for elderly people. That's the gardening stool.
You're not allowed to call yourself elderly yet.
You're just
These
old.
kids. These kids.
Some people can't
Yeah,
bend very well.
Mhm.
I learned.
Well-
I learned from working in the comic book shop. Don't get long boxes.
Oh yeah.
Get short boxes. When you're young and you're tossing the boxes around, that's fine. But quickly you realize that's a lot of comics to be moving all
Yeah.
at once.
I've told the story before about how when I was like 20, and some guy who must have been like in his 40s wasn't even that old by my today's standards, was like, stick to short boxes, kid. Those long boxes will break your back eventually. I was like,
Yep.
that sounds like good advice. I'm going to stick to short boxes.
And don't regret it ever since.
No.
The only long boxes I have are maybe 3 from the original collection, and those are
I don't know
usually
then.
the bottom box of stuff that holds the rest of them up.
So I'm not sure if I'm going to get the other supervillain team ups to fill in my. First, I'm going to worry about the Submariners, because in looking for the supervillain team ups, that they were about same thing, crazy, anywhere from $10 to $30 an issue. That people are never going to get $30 an issue for supervillain team. But these at $10 a piece were kind of the only reasonable, easy ones I could get. But if you're looking for the whole series of Marvel Team Up and Marvel Team of Supervillain Team Up, they have full sets for around $175 to $200, which at 17 issues plus the 2 puts it at around $10 an issue if you were to buy the whole set together, which seems pretty expensive for Supervillain Team Up.
Yeah.
By the way, Supervillain Team Up wins for most dashes, hyphens. There we go. Giant Size gets a hyphen, Supervillain gets a hyphen, and Team Up gets a hyphen.
As well as Submariner on that cover.
Oh yeah, look at that. Submariner gets one too.
There's one of those. There's an omnibus with all of the supervillain team ups.
Yeah,
there's an essential.
There's an epic too. I think. There's definitely an essential.
And I have the essential.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not an epic, but I think the omnibus covers it.
The essential, you mean, or is there an essential and an omnibus?
There's an essential and an omnibus, but not an epic.
Okay. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's worth getting to read.
Right.
Well,
I mean, it's okay.
Yeah.
There's plenty of other things to get before it. It's worth getting kind of for nostalgia and as a conversation piece, and just to fill in those holes in your collection you've always wanted to fill.
Yeah, because it's a line that's like can be from start to finish, and then that's it. And it's like a manageable set to go. I have this whole set.
It's a manageable set to want to collect.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that valuable to actually read if you're,
Right.
I think it's more valuable to want to collect it, to sort of scratch that collector's itch. than to say, I want to sit down and read that whole series. You might find yourself taking a lot of time to read the whole series.
Right.
Read, rip, slab, and hyphenate. Let's see. Another one we got. The third and final issue of Bear Pirate Viking Queen. Let's show you some. Like this one was as much a poem and an art piece as anything. In this, we have it's the Viking facing off with the Queen in London, and then the bear just kind of walks away. Some nice artwork. And this whole thing might be a statement on colonialism. Not 100% sure, but it might be. Because the Viking and the Queen of England were fighting because they've always been fighting. And the bear somehow was part of that, who I think there was, being that the name Osborne means, the name Osborne, which is an English name, means of the bear god. I got to figure there were people in England worshiping a bear god at some time. So that could have what the bear has to do with it. But the Viking also had these two, I don't remember where they were from, indigenous people. I don't know if they were from the Americas or somewhere else. I don't remember. Captive to do magic. And at the end, the story just veers away from the queen. The bear just walks away and goes, let them fight. And they go back to the magic people and are just kind of like, let's get out of here. And at the end is this little poem that says, become what you are. I don't know what that means either. I enjoyed it thoroughly. But as for what it means, I'm not sure. Like it could be an anti-colonialist statement. That's as far as I can get into what it means. But it was fun. Big, extra thick issues, 3 of them. It was one of those fun things. It was fun to read for 3 issues. But, any more and maybe not as much fun. I'm okay with not 100% knowing what's going on in a comic for a short time. For a short time. You guys have any comics you liked that you didn't 100% know what was going on? Stray Toasters. I don't remember that one much. I don't think anyone knew what was going on in that one.
I don't think I have any of those. I was disappointed with the filth.
The filth? Well, that's Grant Morrison. You can't help but be disappointed. He's the master of the first issue, and then you take your chances. You're talking on mute, Wilson, I think.
Okay, there we go. I usually stuck to the superhero stuff, so they were usually the cut and dry. Here's a hero, here's a villain.
If you couldn't tell what was going on, it was just bad storytelling. You knew that,
right? But anything else, I didn't really stray into odd stuff or anything like that. I remember enjoying the beginning of something like Strike Force Mortuary, but I don't know where it went after that. I remember nothing of the book. I just remember getting it, and it's like, we who are about to die salute you. So it's like, okay, so these are characters who have powers, but the powers are killing them. I don't remember anything else after that. So I don't know where that was going. There were some graphic novels, like what was it? Steel. Was it Steel Grip Starkey or
Steel
some
Grip
weird name?
Starkey and his all-purpose power tool.
No, that's just
All-purpose power
fun.
tool. It was
That's just
fun.
fun.
I wasn't really too sure what was going on though.
Yeah,
And again, this is a book that I picked up because some stuff was going on. It was a graphic novel, so I had to get it, and I wasn't too sure where it was going. I liked the premise. It was a lot of fun. I think we were promised a series at the end of it, and it
was
never.
there a series?
I don't think there was. I think we were promised one,
It was a
Uh,
and we
5 issue
never
mini.
got it. Was there? Because I don't
It
think I ever
was,
saw it afterwards.
Yeah, because I
but
think
no,
I've
I think only the I didn't know there was a graphic novel. I thought it was just a
yeah, I
5
don't
issue
know the
mini.
graphic novel. I think I remember the 5-issue miniseries.
Then I might be getting them mixed up because I thought it started as a graphic novel
Yeah, I don't know.
and then it went from there. Or it just could be I'm thinking of a graphic novel that's very similar that didn't go anywhere.
Okay.
And that was the confusing one. And I always in my mind
Vo-
thought it
Void
was that
Indigo?
book.
Void Indigo?
I
No.
remember having a white cover, but I don't recall anything else after that.
Val Mayerick, was that Void Indigo? Was he doing
Yeah.
that one? Yeah.
Mhm.
I have that one on my shelf, I think, in my Marvel graphic novels.
And
That
I remember the first time I tried to read Airtight Garage, and I was like, "What the hell am I reading here?" And I was lost by page 5.
I never quite knew what was going on in the Inkle.
The Inkle's pretty easy, actually.
I was never a fan. I couldn't tell you what it was about right now. I don't know that I was lost as much as I was bored.
I don't think I ever
That was one
seen
of
the
those
book.
that disappointed me when I finally read it.
Well, the Inkle is one of those things in which you have a. They try to center it on John Defoe, but nobody actually likes John Defoe because he's annoying. So that's what everybody wanted to know about the Metabaron. Which is why then Jodorowsky did a series about the Metabaron.
I always wanted to check that one out, but I never did.
It's pretty fun. It's sex, magic, and cyborgs.
There you go. How can you not like that? Is Andro in it, who used to be Doomsman 2? And
No, but the you have robots talking to each other. They're telling the story to each other.
Robots telling stories.
Mm-hmm. We must get everything ready for the master. But when is the master coming home? We don't know. We just have to have everything ready. I'll tell you the story of the master.
That just reminded me of there used to be a backup story in some issues of Concrete. I can't remember what the name of it was, but the basic concept was there was some place where there were all these floating heads. They were just floating heads, no bodies. And as they'd go by each other, they'd tell each other stories. So the story, he'd draw the story of whatever one floating head was telling the other. Then it always ended with like the heads floating off. They couldn't tell each other. Those two particular ones couldn't tell and listen to stuff. I always found that really weird, but pretty cool.
That is kind of cool. It's odd.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Just a way to tell stories. These two, floating heads telling each other stories. Sleepy says those Mobius stories and serialization and heavy metal came out in such small bits, we assumed there was more coherent stuff going on than there really was. Yeah, I can see that. Missing Mars. Good evening.
Picking up like heavy metal issues and be right in the middle of a story. And it's like, did this come out the issue before, this issue after? Not realizing that, there is another book that just has everything in it, but you never really see that book. It's like it always seemed like, you have to order that book. You can't really just find it on the rack like you find the heavy metal books.
The funny thing is, I've been noticing in the Grand Comics database, somebody's been updating issues of Le Journal de Spirou, and then I noticed pages 9 and 10 of Buck Danny, Volume 24. next week, pages 10, 11 and 12 of book 2024. So yeah, you might as well wait for the album.
Another comic. Oh, 2024 Eisner Award nominee, Best New Series. Local Man, issue number 11, as he's being whitewashed, his poster out. And this is the one that's about, there's a flip book, where on this side we get a backup story of the 90s super team. And this is the one that, Tony Fleece is drawing. Tony, let me show you a little artwork. Some nice artwork in this one. And this is the one story about a superhero who screwed up and got kicked off his superhero team and now can't be a superhero because they own his trademark and license and all that stuff. So he had to move back to his old hometown. And of course, turned out to be some conspiracy in his whole hometown, which he had to investigate and had to do with his old superhero team, and stuff happened. And now we're into another story arc where a cult has taken over his hometown. So this hometown can't catch a break. So now he's trying to deal with a cult who used to be the enemies of that super team, who have taken over the town. And what is the name of they've got some name, and it's written by Tony Fleece Tony Fleece and Tim Seeley. Farmington art by Tony Fleece, and Tim Seeley draws the backup. But he's kind of like Bullseye or something like that. Anything can be a weapon in his hands. And he had a Captain America shield too. Crossjack, that was his superhero name. But now they call him. Now he wears a ski mask, and they call him Local Man. Because of the newspaper. Local Man does this. Local Man does that. And most people know who he is. They're called like Generation 3 or something like that. Might not be Generation because I think that's taken. But he got the Faceless Horde. That's the villains in this one. That's the cult. So this book has been, the Eisner Award, I think, is well deserved. It's been a good book. And this is the one that got me reading though he's drawing this one, the other Tony Fleece books are, in fact, I have one here, Feral, and the one I just started picking up, Uncanny Valley. This is the one it's also good. Tony Fleece is writing it, and Trish Forstner and Tone Rodriguez are drawing it. And someone last month told me that Tone Rodriguez is doing the backgrounds and stuff, and Trish Forrester is doing the cats. So all those like cartoon cats are one artist, and all the rest of it is another. Then it says Sarah Richard is doing cougar magic. I don't know what that means. Was there a cougar in here? I don't know what cougar magic means in a credits box, but another this is the one that's like a zombie tale with cartoon cats, because there's this terrible rabies outbreak happening that the cats all have to run away from, and the humans are trying to kill all the rabied animals, which means all the animals. Right. The cats are trying to survive this.
Is there a skinny clad 56-year-old divorcee in the story?
I don't think so.
Okay, then I don't get cougar magic at all.
Yeah. Let's see, SBB. I regret giving a chance to Milo Manara, except for Indian Summer, thanks to Pratt writing.
I think Giuseppe Bergman is a very fun series. It's surrealist, but it's fun.
I've read some. I haven't read Milo in a while, but he's okay. I like his art. It's pretty.
Between Manara and Pratt, I prefer Manara. Pratt has more interesting ideas. It's just that he's not good at drawing them. People love him, but I don't get it. It's that dream-like way that he does pencils, but which I don't like. But he has better ideas. The thing is, when Manara is creating his own stories, he doesn't think of them as stories. It's more like trying to. It's more important to him that they look cool visually then they tell a story. That's why they end up being surrealist.
SBPT says, I'm very curious for Local Man, but I think it might be better to read it in comic book format than trade. The problem is most of the back issues are sold out. Then I would, I've done this before. What I do, I mean, I'm perfectly willing to pick up whatever the latest issue is. And if I like it, I'll go back and get the trade and continue the issues, or read it digitally and continue buying the issues. Look at I like to read month to month generally. So, and also if I get a trade, I'll read one issue at a time. I'll read one issue, I'll put it down, I'll come back a couple hours later or the next day and read another issue. I won't read the whole thing all together unless it's that kind of thing that you read that way, but it isn't always.
Rob Liefeld's been.
What was that?
Rob Liefeld's been doing 30th anniversary issues of some of his characters.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in getting one so we could review it?
Are they from Image?
I'm not sure. Rob's been talking about. I remember Bloodstrike being advertised a couple of months ago. He just said that there's an Evangeline coming up.
I might buy one out of curiosity. See what it's like. Why not?
Evangeline 30th anniversary. When does that come out?
Is he actually drawing them, or?
Well, he did. Did he do the Bloodstrike? I think he did the Bloodstrike.
SBPT says exactly, Paulo. Manara's not a writer; he's an artist. What you need is that set of Milo Manara cards that tell the future that I have. He's a futurist.
I still have the Caravaggio books here to read. He's doing a series about the Renaissance painter Caravaggio.
Oh, okay.
Which I suppose is an excuse for him to draw naked prostitutes in 16th century Italy.
Any excuse is a good excuse.
Yep.
To draw naked prostitutes in 16th century Italy.
Yeah, Rob's doing an Evangeline, but I don't know exactly when it's coming out.
Picked up a first issue this week, just out of curiosity. Free Agents by Kurt Busiek, Fabian Nicieza, Stephen Mooney, Triona Farrell, and Comic Craft.
Is Stephen Mooney G. Mooney's grandson or something?
Don't know. But I gotta say, it really wasn't for me. It was too mainstream, matter of fact, military superhero.
Yeah, I don't really understand.
Nothing wrong with naked prostitutes.
I think that Kurt and Fabian are too alike in their writing to be able to complete each other as joint writers.
Yeah, I don't. It just was, for lack of a better word, too mainstream for me. It was, and it seemed a lot like Wildcats at the beginning, because we have this sort of military action team of superheroes.
Stephen Mooney is Irish, so he's probably not related.
There we go. And they all have their individual powers, and that big monstrous guy has a lot of controls. The other guy's like helping him be in control. There's this band of alien bad guys, I guess, who are trying to take over Earth, and they're going to stop them. There was just nothing that stood out about it to me.
Mm-hmm.
To make me, it wasn't terrible by any stretch of the imagination, just not for me. Free Agents is a book about making individual choices against a backdrop of enormous responsibilities you have a little control of. Yeah, that's right. They were like the leader. Oh, are you going to be able to make the hard decisions? Blah, 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 blah. I just Couldn't get into it. Don't have a lot to say about it, except it was okay. If this is your thing, a squad of interdimensional soldiers stranded on Earth. Their war is over, but their greatest battle starts now. To fight to save their own souls. All right.
Here's the thing with Kurt Busiek coming up with new concepts. Sometimes they hit the mark perfectly, and other times they're just kind of there.
Yeah.
Fabian has never been one to come up with interesting self-developed ideas. He's always been a very good, effective writer working with Marvel and DC properties. And, and in that regard, he has created some of the most interesting material that those houses have produced.
Right.
But I don't see him doing an indie book.
Yeah, it didn't thrill me. Nothing wrong with naked prostitutes. I don't care what her occupation is. Master Rob 30th. I will read that when they get to the 99-cent bin box at King Bin Books. There you go. Like I said, no 99-cent bin at my LCS. So they don't want people who paid $4 for their comics to see them in a 99-cent bin. And I don't blame them.
Yeah, but sometimes the books are years old and nobody wants them. And
yeah.
Like you put them in the dollar bin because the point is, hey, just take a chance. You might like it.
I know at least a couple of times my LCS owner sold all those unsellable books to one of those mystery box guys. Mystery box of comics, guaranteed to be worth over $50 for only $49.99. That's who got them. Oh, by the way, I have another comic. I don't know if this is a complaint, but we're back to my Brooklyn Bridge effect, where you only have two choices when buying comics: to be the sucker who pays full price for the individual issues, or the asshole who waits for the suckers to subsidize the trade. There was a new Matt Kint book on Final Order Cutoff last week. It was a Dark Horse book too. Something called Guilt Frame was the name of it. And he's co-writing it with his mother. And I think it's some sort of mystery book too. It's like a locked room mystery thing. I don't know what. But the price of it was $10 for the first issue. 3-issue mini, $10 an issue. And I was just like, And I like Matt Kint is one of my favorites. And I especially likes it when he draws his own stuff, which he's doing here. But the cover wasn't very attractive to begin with. It was just like a figure inside a fake gilt frame. And then I was like, you know what? And I was sitting there. I was like, I was like $30 for 3 issues. I don't know if I want to be that sucker. So I was like, I bet that they've got the hardcover on eBay, not on eBay, on Amazon for pre-order already. So I went and looked it up. And it's not coming out until February. But the hardcover for the book is $30, which means you're going to get it for cheaper than that when it comes out. So I was like, you know what? I am not going to be the sucker on this one. I'm going to be the asshole. I'm just going to wait till February to get this one if I want to get it, because I just do not want to pay $10 an issue for something that's clearly not supposed to be a story told over time. like I mostly like reading stuff in individual because I like the time factor involved. I like the fact that it's continued. I like the fact that it gives me time to mull it over. I like the fact that it continues from month to month. But that but $10 an issue for something that's clearly not meant to be read month to month. I was just like, no, I can't be that sucker with this one. So I didn't pre-order it. Can't be the sucker. You reached my limit. $10. I was like, ah. Oh.
Yeah, you know, the whole point of reading comics for 40 years is that you're supposed to be smarter than the guys who have been reading comics for 10 years.
Yeah.
Let those kids subsidize your hobby.
But like I said, I like the periodical nature of comics. That's one of the things I like about them. You go every month, and I can talk about them here every week, what I got, what's going on, what's not going on. I can talk about the comics in the comic shop. That's what I like. I like the periodic social nature of comics. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to charge me $10 an issue and it's not even going to have that, there's no point. There's no point to me buying the periodicals. So that was my biggest contemplation of should I get that one or not, and I was like, no, I'm not getting it. Yeah. I'll get the hardcover whenever.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. It's just, it's that price point, and it's just, and to give, and if it's a project that's so brand new and you have no idea, and you said the writer wrote it with his mother, does she have any credits?
Yeah.
That seems like, it sounds like a vanity project, and you're just charging a lot of money for it.
Yeah. It's just like that. And I like Matt Kint's work. I usually buy everything Matt Kint does. But I think the last thing I bought by him also was like $8 books that there was 2 or 3 of. And I don't even remember what it is now. And for charging $10 for it, a year from now, it's not going to have any value. Right. Like if I were to buy it in a month, I would pay $10 for it. Then it'll be in the dollar bin. If I wanted to sell it because I didn't like it, I'd get $1 for it. If I get the book and don't like it, I can get $10 for it. I would guess. But it's like the $10 comic is going to be worthless so quickly. And I'm not saying that a comic has to go up in value for me to like it. But for me to absolutely know it's going to be worthless. And I absolutely know it's going to be worthless. I don't want to pay $10 for it. If it was a Godzilla comic, it might, maybe you can get $5 for a $10 comic next year. But for Guilt Frame, no, not going to happen. That's like, a car you drive off the lot. The price is just going to plummet until it hits the floor.
Yep.
Crazy. Let's see, what else did I get? This one was good. I've been enjoying it. And there was Sleepy Reader who got the first issue and said it was so gross that made me get the first issue. The Principles of Necromancy, and it continues to be gross. It's about this crazy doctor, and I don't. It's this like medieval world, but he's going to this conclave of doctors. Where are they? The 36th Annual Conference of Doctors. And it's got some really cool art. So it's the story about this guy. The main character is this doctor, Dr. Eyes. Is that his name?
Except for the coloring, that looks like something that could have come out in 1991.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It definitely has that look to it. It's got that sort of indie comic trying to be as detailed as a superhero comic look.
Yeah, and I recently discovered Clive Barker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes to the conclave, and the doctors are all weird and twisted. But our doctor is too weird and twisted for even them. And that's the story. So another, like I've enjoyed this one. Let's see, what does it say in the back? Set in a fantasy universe bereft of magic. The Principles of Necromancy follows Dr. Jacob Eyes, one of a small number of scientific physicians who have set their minds on the task of curing ills of the world. But their science may as well be magic. I mean, it says setting the world up there because their science don't work. I mean, it doesn't follow any of the rules of science we know. They're just cutting people up and pasting them back together and putting stuff in them. And now he sets his sights on defeating the only malady doctors are expressly forbidden from curing, death itself.
Dun, dun,
So
dun.
it says set in a fantasy universe bereft of magic, but their medicine is pretty much magic. But a good horror book. Who's doing this one? Oh, this is the one by with the weird. Writers are Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly. And the artist is Eamon Winkle, Eamon. Colorist Jay Photos, letterer Sean Lee. I got to say, I'm really enjoying this one from Magma Comics. Thanks to Sleepy Reader for complaining about how gross it was. I was kind of in the mood for a gross comic.
He's still around. He in his video, he got an issue of Dragon Ring from Eternity Comics or something, but it was one of Barry Blair's publishers. And Dragon Ring was the comic in which Dale Keown started.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I couldn't tell from the video, but that looked like a Keown cover, so it may be one of his earliest work.
Yeah. I remember. I've forgotten about it. I didn't know him from Dragon Ring. I remember later on finding out. By the way, these two foam rings that I play with when I sit here, every week playing with these for, I'm usually fidgeting with my hands. These are from earlier in the year when I bought a Nintendo Switch. These were the two foam rings that were in the packaging around the two thumb things on the Switch. And I have played with these 10 times more than the Nintendo Switch.
They can make money just selling those as
Yeah. I've had these in my hands more than the Nintendo Switch. They're nice. They fit right on your finger. They're foam and quietly play with them. Let's see. What else did I get? The new Grendel. Let me show you some art in here. This is the art by Matt Wagner with his son Brendan on coloring. And this is once again Grendel Prime. And the last miniseries Grendel miniseries was also about Grendel Prime, and that was the one that was, as I said before, Star Trek. Grendel Prime was out on a mission in space to find a new place for the humans on Earth to move to for some reason. Failed in his mission. Finally makes it back to Earth, and it's 500 years later. and civilization has collapsed everywhere. He's found the only places that have electricity are these secure cities that he hasn't been able to go into because, as he's found out, reward for anyone bearing the name or likeness of Grendel, dead or alive, by order of the Necro Lords. So it is a crime to have anything to do with Grendel. So here's a Grendel walking around going, maybe this world ain't for me.
Maybe.
But he can't get off. So he eventually found some town that it's a crime to have electricity and stuff outside the cities. And so he's in this town trying to find some electricity to fix himself because Grendel Prime is a robot of some kind, an android or whatever he is.
Cyborg.
Cyborg.
The only thing he has left is the brain. The rest is mechanical.
Okay. So at the end, he manages to find a Grendel underground. So that's where the first issue ends. So he's back on Earth. It's 500 years later. It's a crime to be a Grendel. They'll kill you on sight. But there's some sort of Grendel underground. Good first issue. I enjoyed it. 4-issue mini. So good, I'm okay with buying Matt Wagner. Sometimes I even double dip on the Grendel stuff and buy the collected edition. But that's usually with the Hunter Rose Grendel. So we'll see about that one. But like I said, 4-issue Grendel series. Matter of fact, I think it's going to be 3 4-issue series, it said. This story.
Yeah, that's how they advertise it.
Yeah.
A trilogy.
Right. Which, is just weird to me.
Yeah, it's not usually how he does Grendel.
Yeah, I understand what's wrong with the 12-issue miniseries.
More number ones is the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
Grendel Devil's Crucible Defiance, Grendel's Devil Crucible Sedition, and Grendel Devil's Crucible Necrotic. All right.
One day when Matt Wagner dies is going to be the only person who created a character to have appeared in all possible genres.
Yeah.
Because that thing there is kind of like a Mad Max spaghetti western.
Yeah. That's a good way to describe it. And like I said, the last one was Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Grendel's in space.
Want to do a read, rip, and slab?
Yes.
Sure.
Paulo, pick a decade.
70s.
The 70s.
Yeah, that supervillain team-up inspired me.
Bronze Age.
Let's see what we got in the 70s. That's the 80s. Let's go with...
It's go covers.
Let's go with 1977, February. Here's some mystery books. Whoops, wrong place. Let me share. There we go. We have got Unexpected 179, Luis Dominguez cover. Weird Wonder Tales 22, Cockrum and Chan. And Boris Karloff, Tales of Mystery. Don't know who drew that one. There's quite the eclectic look at late 70s. I guess we could call that horror mystery books. We didn't call them horror books in the 70s. They were mystery books.
Yeah. That's the costume that I want. Nice text on
Mordred the Mystic
cover.
was kind of a superhero.
Yeah. Well, it was Marvel.
Yeah.
Even the Living Mummy. The Living Mummy also appeared in one of those anthologies. The story was very superheroistic, especially because he ends up fighting aliens. Okay, what do I want to do here?
And I didn't even know Boris Karloff was around in 70 or Gold Key and Boris Karloff.
No, I think it was a TV series just using the name, like Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Oh, okay. 74 issue. I wonder if those are reprints.
Eventually, they might become, yes, but not here. I don't think here was. I think here it was still new stories.
I don't remember that from I don't remember seeing a Boris Karloff from my comic from my childhood, which in 77 I was 10 and 11.
By the early 80s, I think you could find those in Whitman 3-packs.
Ah, okay. I wasn't buying Gold Key 3-pack. I was not a madman. And where is Luis Dominguez from?
Argentina.
You know? Argentina? Okay. I didn't think he was one of the Filipino guys. So.
No. Although I think he moved to the United States when he was working for Charlton.
Ah.
Okay.
Ernie Chan, he was from the Philippines, right?
Yeah.
Originally, but he was in the U.S.
Yeah.
This one's a hard one because I don't think I'm interested in reading any of them.
Oh, come on. Mordred the Mystic?
It's just...
No, it's not Mordred the Mystic. This is Dr. Druid.
Oh, that's Dr. Druid. Pardon me, Dr. Druid.
Yeah, that's Dr. Druid. I wasn't even thrilled with him when he was in the Avengers. He's my least favorite Avenger. He's not even an Avenger I hate. I just have nothing for him. I think I would slab Boris Karloff, mainly because I really like Gold Key's painted covers. There's something about those covers that are always kind of unique in itself. So I could see slabbing that just so it could be a piece of artwork. I'm going to read Unexpected because you don't know what you're going to get in that. It's unexpected. Although I'm going to guess in the story, whatever costume he's picking is going to possess him. Because that just seems like an obvious thing that's going to happen.
That's the costume I want.
and that means I'm going to have to rip the Weird Wonder Tales.
Dr. Druid. Here's a question. What's going on that Boris Karloff cover?
It is a
within the monster's death grip, the gladiator was reborn.
Yes. So I don't know. I am not too sure what is happening.
That's like
I could only imagine
a minotaur crushing a guy to death.
Right.
With like some soldier. Are they like next in line to fight the minotaur?
That's what it looks like to me. That they're patiently waiting to fight. You know. But I would definitely switch out the guy for the dolphin. So the Minotaur is holding a dolphin. So it stays within the whoever's being carried becomes the dolphin. And I'm going to continue the flamingos right behind those other guards as if they're waiting online to fight him next. And then I'm going to rip Weird Wonder Tales right cross diagonally so I can separate the doctor from the sea monster creature.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm going to read Unexpected. I want to know what he ends up doing with the zombie that he thinks is a costume. I'm going to slap Boris Karloff. The guy that Minotaur is holding, he kind of looks like he's dressed as a matador. But the other gladiators, they remind me of
Roman gladiators.
No, not Roman gladiators. They are cuirassiers. They're like elite infantry who wore a cuirass, sort of flexible armor in the late 18th century, and you could find them in the Napoleonic Wars. Which is kind of weird.
No, Boris Karloff says, SPPT says, Boris Karloff seems like a bullfight with a minotaur. Yeah, that's what it seems like. But when you look at it.
Yeah, well, just by looking at it, I would guess The story starts off as a bull going to fight a matador, usual type of thing. Then suddenly he turns into the Minotaur, and then Gladiators Reborns. Maybe his spirit gets taken over by an ancient gladiator. So it's a
No,
modern
no.
day fight that
I think
ancients become a part
I
of.
think I got it. I think this is what it is. Looking at this cover, because it says within the monster's death grip, the gladiator was reborn. So it is ancient, sometime in ancient Rome. The gladiator is fighting the Minotaur. And who better to kill a Minotaur than a bullfighter? So, sometime in the middle of fighting the Minotaur, the gladiator is reborn as a matador.
Hmm.
Oh,
That's all I can
interesting.
tell from the cover.
Okay.
Because I guess a matador would have a better chance against a Minotaur than a gladiator. I don't know why, but
Yeah, especially because minotaurs were carnivorous bulls. And you have to. I'm going, and I have to rip Weird Wonder Tales because that cover is designed to deceive you. That book is entirely reprints. It's those. It's the last issue, and
the
those
last
weird
issue
one.
should be worth the most.
But those Weird Wonder Tales stories. It's where they redrew the main character to look like Doctor Druid, which is how Doctor
Uh,
Druid was introduced. They picked up the old issues from Amazing Adventures Volume One with Kirby Ditko art, and they drew Doctor Druid on top.
Who did they
So
replace?
no, it was they weren't usually Doctor Droom,
Oh, okay.
and there's a couple when they replaced just the main character of the story. It's not a feature, so
well, I'm gonna read Weird Wonder Tales because I know the glory of Doctor Druid, even if you guys don't. And I'm gonna have to slab Boris Karloff because we've gotten so much out of that cover. And as much as I actually think the Unexpected is a better cover than that Boris Karloff one, I'm gonna have to rip it. And the dolphin is gonna replace the swimming person on the Weird Wonder Tales cover because why not? Seems perfect.
Yeah.
I'm going to dolphin the zombie costume.
So he wants to
And
wear the dolphin costume.
yeah, exactly. And I'm going to put the flamingos alongside the swimming thing on Weird Wonder Tales.
I'm gonna put the flamingos on that guy in the back of Unexpected Shoulders. That guy who's barely can be seen besides the UPC. He's gonna have a flamingo on each shoulder. Waiting to see what happens to what costume he chooses. Oh, I can hear some thunder out there. It's rolling through. Unless it's more fireworks. Could be that too.
Mm.
Because it seems like fireworks near the 4th of July go on for 3 or 4 days.
Oh yeah. Around here, they were going off till about 3 in the morning.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So that was a weird bunch of 1970s comics.
Mm-hmm. Well, that Boris Karloff cover is by Jesse Santos, who
Okay.
was usually the painter for all those gold keys.
Jesse Santos.
And and according to the Grand Comics database, all of those stories were reprinted in different issues of the German comic magazine Gespenstergeschichten,
Sentite.
published by Bastei Verlag.
Got the new issue of Savage Dragon,
Oh boy.
Ooh.
where we get more pervert Mickey Mouse.
Eric Larson is toying with Disney with getting a lawyer's letter because one thing is Mickey is in the public domain, the other is Mickey is a trademark, and while he's choosing to portray Mickey from the back, the fact that it's just the black circles makes it more like the trademark than if he had shown Mickey from the front.
A fun story. Mickey's trying to chase down Savage Dragon's wife so he can get with her. And he's not taking no for an answer. Meanwhile, Savage Dragon is fighting this new villain who turns out to be a conservative talk show host.
Yeah, he's Alex Jones.
Yeah, he's Alex Jones. There we go. Alex Jones in an armored suit.
Amazing. That is a man who is having fun with comics.
Yep. Here is Mickey Mouse fighting naked Savage Dragon's wife, Maxine.
Wow.
Because she's running the Bay to the Breakers nude, which you can do in San Francisco. Then they have a backup story. Whatever happened to Greta Gearbox? Which I think was just to let us know that the Savage Dragon kids used to have a robot nanny called Greta Gearbox. And I guess I forgot she even existed. And I guess Eric Larson just dropped her out of the story. So they just have this little backup story of her getting crushed, protecting the kids. I'm sorry, baby, she's gone. Get a broke. Get a boke. So I guess that's what happened to Greta Gearbox.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Asking it somewhere, somebody asked the question, and he decided, I'll take care of it this way.
Another Eric Larson smash hit.
If he says so.
271 issues, The Savage Dragon.
Yeah.
That is impressive.
Okay, so I wonder. So what's the next thing that's going to go into the public domain that is going to put in a story? And will it want to have sex with Maxine as well?
I just saw a chart of that, but I can't remember what it was. Not having anything to do with Eric Larson, but next characters in the public domain.
Yeah, there was a chart that came out, and it was kind of not weird, but it was like, oh, because some stuff on that chart was already in the public domain.
Yeah.
And then there were things that were on it that it's like, okay, technically that is becoming public domain, although it already exists in the public domain, such as The Wizard of Oz.
Right.
Some of the books, the early books, are already in the public domain, but now they're talking about the MGM version of it going into the public domain soon.
Ooh, Buck Rogers goes into the public domain.
I thought Buck Rogers was already in. Well, not the Buck, whatever he was right before he was called Buck Rogers. Captain Rogers.
Yeah, Armageddon 2419 is in the public domain,
right?
But it's not called Buck there. But
right.
the first few months of newspaper strip going to the public domain, including the part that everybody remembers, which is the origin story. So now anyone can do Buck Rogers like they want to. What else do we have here? Okay, so the first Stars and Strips illustrated by Hal Foster into the public domain. See if I know any of these. Oh, the first Marx Brothers. Ooh.
SPPD says Larson is the man. It's just a pity his comics aren't double-sized every issue.
Ooh, I wonder if Eric Larson will want to use Groucho Marx in a story.
Dave Sim already did that.
Okay.
The next public domain is Popeye, says SBPD. Could be.
Could be. Let's see. Popeye debuted in 1929, yes. So yeah, he does go into the public domain. His first appearances in Thimble Theater. Eric Larson is totally going to use Popeye.
Yeah.
You just know he is.
Yeah, definitely, no doubt. Fun to draw, punches people, no problem. Let's see, what else did I get? The latest issue of World Tree is here. This is the cyberpunk one. And
Salvador Dali's paintings, The Great Masturbator, and The Accommodations of Desire going to the public domain.
Will
Eric Larson do something with The Great Masturbator?
Hey, he's going to change Mickey's name to that.
And this is one, there's something they call the undernet that's underneath the World Wide Web that is sentient and wants to conquer the world. And it can take you over by you looking at your phone. And we got our team of computer outlaws trying to stop them. And we've got FBI agents and tough guy trying to stop them. So it's kind of hard to describe, except it's cyberpunk X-Files ish, except there's only one case. And we just found out that one of the guys that we didn't know was on the side of the undernet. It's on the side of the undernet. So it's been a fun book. Who is this? James Tinian IV, Fernando Blanco on art, Jordi Belair on colors, Aditya Bidikar on letters. But this is one of those ones I jumped on late because people were recommending it on YouTube. But I managed to get like 4th and 5th printings of the early issues. So I ended up getting the whole thing of World Tree. So good stuff. If you want a nice conspiracy cyberpunk indie book. It's funny, while I was at the comic shop this week, I saw somebody who I haven't seen in a while. He was a friend of a neighbor who I grew up with, so I've known him for years. But I haven't seen him in a while, and he's a really kind of mainstream comic book guy. So he's like, "Oh, I check out your video sometimes. You buy some really weird stuff. What do you got this week?" He didn't know except for like the Savage Dragon. He didn't know a single comic in my pile of the 14. He was like, "What?" He's like, "Man, you get some weird stuff." I'm like, "Yeah, that's all the good stuff."
He hadn't heard of Grendel?
I don't know that he had. He didn't point that one out, but if there was one he'd heard of besides the Savage Dragon, it might have been Grendel, but I don't think he said anything about Grendel. So who knows? There's a new version. I got the new one at Free Comic to my student. The story was unreadable, but the kids love the art. Popeye meets One Piece manga series. Wow.
Okay.
Kids love One Piece. Matter of fact, I was there was just a big family gathering for me as we had a memorial celebration for my aunt. So I was talking to one of my cousin's husband, and they're a generation younger than me. So they're like in their early 20s. And Cam was his name. He first of all, he was talking about One Piece because apparently they're redoing all of One Piece with new art. I don't know if it's the anime they're redoing. I think that's what it was. But he was feeling like, because One Piece was one of his favorites. I was telling him about Grendel Master Edition, and he was like, and I was like, I was a little hesitant going into that since the original is one of my favorites. He's like, and that's when he started telling me about One Piece. And I was like, wow, they're going to redo all of because One Piece has been around for a long time now, the comic and the animation. So I think they're starting it over with new animation. I was like, whoa.
Okay. Hergé did that with his early Tintin albums.
Right.
He did it in the 50s and 60s.
It was about how Popeye lost his eye. I didn't know he always has one eye squinted closed, but I didn't know it was missing. I had no idea it was missing. But like I said, my cousin was also talking to me about he read his first American comic because I think he had read some manga over the years. But the first American comic he had read was Watchmen. I found that interesting.
Yep.
But I also realized it was a good one to start with because it's so clear. The storytelling is so on point
Hmm.
that there's nothing to get confused about storytelling wise.
Hmm.
First question he was asking me is what I thought of the squid. He'd been reading online, and that was like controversy. He's like, I know they changed it in the movie and this and that. But I was like, you know what? That's a good one to start with because it's like I said, the storytelling is so crystal clear on it that there's no way. Like if you give people like some modern comics where the storytelling isn't quite that clear, it may make them not read it. You always know what panel to read next in The Watchmen.
Yeah. It was like it knew the rules and it stuck to it.
Yup. And another book that's in the massive verse, so I'll get it in my $60, $38 card game, is Rogue Sun. What is this, issue number 20? They've been doing a pretty good job with this massive verse. They're getting a lot of comics out. I mean, Radiant Black's on issue 30, probably really even 35. I have that new One Piece, says SPPT. The artist is a comic book artist now. Okay. So it's definitely a printed manga that they're starting over at the beginning with. But with Rogue Sun, he's another one of these guys who's got a super suit who he inherited from his father. And a big long storyline just ended where, if you remember, somebody took over his body. So he had to go and did his body back, blah, 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 blah. But meanwhile, also, the sort of supervillains that Rogue Sun defeats, there's this magic lady who entraps them in amulets. That's sort of the prison for supervillains. And Rogue Sun, the Rogue Sun with somebody else's mind in him, freed all of them. So now since he got that guy sorted out, he's tracking down some of the supervillains who got let go. So that's what the stories have been about these last couple-ish. Good, solid, much, different than Radiant Black, but much like a solid superhero story. Has any of Rogue Sun or Radiant Black made it over to Portugal, Paulo?
No.
No.
Well, the comic shops will have, who have American comics will have them. But we're not going to have a Portuguese edition of that, no.
No. But you can get the English editions at some comic shops. Yeah, because I can imagine once it has enough trade paperbacks, they can sell them in different places. Does Europe have their own different editions of like something like The Walking Dead?
Yeah.
Like you can get that in like French and Italian, or because that one's popular enough.
Yeah, they're usually equivalent to the U.S. trade paperbacks.
Right. Just because that would make sense at least. Something that big.
Yeah.
Now, I also just realized in seeing on my Facebook this week, it has been 5 years since the last issue of The Walking Dead came out. It's like, whoa, I don't know if I would have guessed. It's been what's 2019? So I bought a monthly issue of The Walking Dead from 2003 to 2019. That was a long time. A long time. Have you read The Walking Dead, Paulo?
I had zero interest in it. I don't usually like zombies. I think they're lazy.
It's not really a zombie book, but Wilson, have you read The Walking Dead?
I read a few trade paperbacks when I was doing some of the Walking Dead sketch cards for Upper Deck. So I went out and bought some trade paperbacks to familiarize myself with some characters. But in that series, I only drew like maybe 4 sketch cards because it was such
Mhm.
a popular card set that when the invitations went out, a bunch of people got to work on them. We had to do a bunch of sketches, turned them in, and apparently they were set up to like, invites would go out and they usually can guess how many people they'll get and
Right.
then, go, okay, we don't have enough people, we'll send out another invite and another invite. But this was the first time, I think, when they sent out an invite, every single group said they'll do it. So they had more artists assigned and they had
Ah.
cards. So I drew, I think, 4 cards for that set, and then that was it. Because they were looking more for the characters than the zombies themselves. Because the
Right.
zombies are fairly easy to draw because you don't have to make it look like anything other than a monster.
Right.
Where they really wanted more of the people drawn,
Because
and
the
so
zombies were never the point of The Walking Dead.
right. So, like a good sci-fi, was about the drama of people and how people react in those situations. So I bought maybe 4 trade paperbacks, and I may have read the first and second trade paperback. I didn't go through all of it, and I don't even know if I started on the first trade paperback because they may not even had the first group of comics because it was so popular and it was so into the series.
Yeah.
So I could only get them in trade paperbacks.
That's funny. I can still remember. I think it was when the Walking Dead TV show hit. How many times I had to explain to zombie movie fans that it wasn't really a zombie show. Because like zombie movie fans expect certain things. They expect rules. They expect to know how they became zombies.
Yeah,
They expect to know, why they were what they have to do to get out of this situation. Like zombie movies all have an end.
right. They all have a kind of their own set of rules
Yeah,
that works in their own zombie
right,
universe. Where The Walking Dead was like, there's no words as zombies because in the Walking Dead universe, they never had zombie movies, so there's
right.
nothing to connect it. And then again, it was like one of those things where he was selling a story that was about something else in the trope of zombies, but
Yeah,
without being
yeah.
zombies.
The zombies just represented instant death.
Right.
That's all they did. How to live in a civilization with death all around you and instant death around you. The zombies were, like I said, they were just symbols of instant death. Oops, looks like some more One Piece information. Sorry, the artist on the new One Piece is not a comic book artist. He's South Korean. It is called Boichi. The story now starts with Luffy older brother. Different story from the original. Oh, okay. That's kind of
I
cool. Like
think
I
it's
said,
pronounced Luffy.
Luffy.
I think so.
I read some One Piece. Do you remember when what was it? Oh God, his name just flew out of my head. I think it was the late '90s or early 2000s. Shonen Jump. That's it. Which I think is still around as an app. You can get it. Shonen Jump wanted to bring a lot of Japanese stuff to the American market. So they made these thick phone book, Japanese style thick anthology phone books of Japanese comics and really cheap subscriptions. Like you could get a subscription to 12 issues of Shonen Jump for like $10. Something crazy like that. And it would have, 200 pages of Japanese comics in it, but at, 10, 12 pages a comic. So for like for the first year I got it just to check it out because it was so cheap. But at the end I had it, I mean, it takes up so much space.
Right.
I ended up getting rid of them just because, like I said, 1 year's worth was that much space, and you may only like a third of it. So I was like, there was no reason to keep them all, which is how the Japanese do it. They after you can read it. I think they have the vending machines full of those weekly ones, and they're supposed to be disposable.
Right.
And if it's popular, it gets printed in its own volume when it's done, and then you can get that. But I was like, you could get overwhelmed by those Shonen Jumps real easily. Like I said, I think you can get a subscription to it in the app in the iOS store. I'll have to double check. I always kind of meant to check, and it's cheap too. It's the same sort of cheap subscription.
Right.
But I never read that many Japanese comics to begin with, so I didn't jump on it. Shonen Jump.
There's so much stuff that it's and it runs the gambit of everything. If you wanted to just to read about basketball players,
Yeah.
no superhero angle to it, no just people wanting to play basketball. You could follow a whole series on that. It's
The
amazing.
drama of a basketball game.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, most of the manga that I read was the mangas that I was working on. Things that I had lettered. A very few things that I picked up just for myself, like Battle Angel Alita.
Leader, right.
These were the ones that I would pick up for myself just because these were put out by Viz.
Did they
and
make that one into a movie?
There was a movie. There was a live action movie
Yeah.
not that long ago that was CGI, not live action.
Okay.
Or at least the characters were CGI. And it's really cool to read. You could definitely tell that the artwork influenced it. Artists like I would say Humberto Ramos.
Yeah.
When he first started, his artwork, I would say, was probably influenced by this art style, and it was a popular series. And so I only picked up a handful of manga that I was collecting when I was collecting comics in general. I would give stuff a try. And when Dark Horse was doing it too, like some of the first mangas I remember picking up were like the Psychic Girl.
Oh yeah, I
Just
bought that.
because that was like so brand new, it was in black
Right.
and white and interesting to read, but I never kept up with it. I bought a lot of issues.
I
But
bought all of it. My issues are now in France.
Okay.
I sold it on eBay a few years ago.
Nice.
I read it one last time. I was like, I can get rid of these. So I put them up on eBay, and I think they went to France, the Psychic Girl. I had a couple of things go to France, and one or two go to Germany.
Okay.
But it had a weird ending in that remember the plot of the Psychic Girl was once again there was this girl who was psychic, and she's supposed to be she had the potential to be one of the most powerful psychics. So this guy who's behind this bad guy organization is like trying to get her so he can exploit her. So the whole it ran like 30 issues or something. I don't know how many volumes that is. But the whole thing was like this cat and mouse game with people trying to keep. So finally, this guy catches up with her. And he was like, so you don't want to join our team? Okay. Catch you later. And he walks away. And it was like,
that's it?
all right. That was the end of the story. She didn't want to join the team. So he's like, I gotta find someone else then.
Wow.
Very strange ending. I still have I don't need them. I should get rid of my issues of Kamui. That was another one at the time that came out with the Psychic Girl.
That one doesn't sound familiar.
He was like this Tarzan-like character, I think. But it was in like ancient Japan. I just remember him jumping around a lot of trees. Huh. Let's see, what else did I get? It turns out this is going to be 10 issues. This is issue 9 of No One. And this is the one that's sort of a police. Once again, it takes place in the Massive Verse. So maybe I'll get him in my $60, $38 card set. And there's also a podcast that goes with it by Rachel Lee Cook and Patton Oswalt. So that's pretty cool, except I never listened to it. And it's sort of a police procedural, and they're trying to figure out who this anti-hero No One is, who's been killing like people who've getting away with crimes against society, sort of thing. And it's really, the artwork's nice. Who does the artwork? Geraldo Borges does the artwork. Kyle Higgins and Brian Bucceletto are the writers. Mart Englert is the colorist, and Hassan Otsmain Elhau is the letterer. And the production artist is Wesley Griffith. So it's been a fun series. This is one I had no idea how many issues it was going, and only now found out it's going 10. But I look up, it says 9 of 10. I wonder if it always says of 10 in the indicia, that there's no way you can read because it's light gray on white. Light gray on white. They don't want you to read that indicia.
Not at all.
Black market now. But this is another Massive Verse book. And let's quickly go through Monstrous. This one's been really good lately. Once again, issue 52. Fantasy book. Big war going on between humans and other humans and animal creatures, and our woman with a monster old god who lives inside her lost her old god. They were separated. Now she's trying to figure out where he is and what's coming back. And let's see, the last one is the Department of Truth, our conspiracy book. There's a little JFK and Jackie O cover. And this is the one where if enough people believe in a conspiracy, it rewrites history. And the conspiracy becomes true. So the Department of Truth works for the U.S., and they're trying to keep conspiracies from becoming true, or control the conspiracy themselves to get what they want to be true. Especially since they were battling in the Cold War. They were battling the Soviets' Department of Truth, which they ironically named the Department of Lies. And they did that just to tweak the Americans. And the head of the Department of Truth is Lee Harvey Oswald. So it's been a fun series. This one seems to have no end in sight. Issue 23. I don't know how many it's going, but we'll see. And I enjoyed this one. This was another one I think I came too late. Because I heard it was good, but people on YouTube told me it was a good book. And I was able to get the original issues in like 3rd, 4th, 5th printings. So I have all the individual issues.
So if someone creates a conspiracy theory, the theory will become true?
If enough people believe in it.
Okay.
It actually rewrites history and becomes true.
All right. So if we were to believe that JFK wasn't assassinated and he went off to have space adventures like he did in the Teen Titans books, that would eventually become true.
That would eventually become true, and he might come back from space to bask in the glory of his Earth years.
Amazing.
My fellow Americans, I, John F. Kennedy, have just come back from outer space. And I have conquered the Martians.
He's been working on that Kennedy impression. I can tell.
No, it's terrible.
He wants to put it into his world leader's repertoire.
Oh, by the way, this terrific supervillain team up cover is Gil Kane and Joe Sinnott. And this, not quite as terrific supervillain team up cover is Ron Wilson and Frank Giacoia. Frank Giacoia inked a lot of Submariner covers.
Did you see Butch Guys' Twitter? He put a interior art from Submariner number 54.
Oh no, I didn't see that.
It was the one drawn by Alan Weiss.
Okay. Alan Weiss I've noticed is a real favorite of artists of a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know some people who are really big Alan Weiss fans, even though he didn't do a ton of stuff. They know all the stuff he did. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's not someone you associate with a Submariner, Alan Weiss.
Well, once again, that's part of my fascination with that era of Submariner. Besides the 10th anniversary covers, that sort of end of Submariner, where does Bill Everett, I know, must have really cared. He must have really wanted to. It probably pleased him very much to be able to do Submariner. His original creation, back in the 30s, late 30s, he was doing again in the mid 70s. So I imagine, but I don't know that anyone else, I don't know if fans cared. I don't know if the other writers around, I mean, they all cared because it was work they had to do. But it's like that period of Submariner is just like a memory hold. I don't even think anyone cared about it at the time, as I've said before, except Bill Everett. He cared. But it's like, I just find it's a weird nostalgic thing for me for this era that nobody cared about. Because in the beginning, I think, like the beginning issues of Submariner, I think people cared. John Buscema was doing them. Mm-hmm. It must have been a fairly good selling comic to have lasted that long, especially at the beginning. But how did it? Why did Submariner comics exist for that long? It's like there was never really a regular team for more than a few issues, especially in those later ones. I just find it weirdly fascinating. Mainstream comics nobody really cares about.
What else was being published at that time period? And this is the 70s, so this is the second generation of Marvel creators that came in, where the 60s, the Silver Age guys were kind of, not to say starting now because comics existed way before then, but the popularity of what was going on in the 60s created the 70s groups who were already had something to stand on, so to speak, and then continue those stories. I could possibly imagine, they were fans of the 60s stuff. Now they get to work on the stuff. Are they working on the stuff they like, or are they working on the stuff they dislike and thought maybe they could do better stories? Who knows what could have ended up in that? Or was a Submariner somebody's favorite character high up at Marvel that was like, keep that book going?
Yeah, that's what's so strange. Like I said, certainly Bill Everett loved the Submariner, no doubt.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But like all the other guys who maybe it was just a place for young guys to cut their teeth. I don't even know who wrote those issues of Submariner. Roy Thomas certainly wrote some. But maybe it was just a book to give to, like, I don't know, did Jerry Conway, Len Wein, and those guys all write Submariners? I'll have to look. Let me see who wrote these issues right over here.
Yeah, and, he had a cartoon show.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there is a popularity to him that we may
Yeah.
not be seeing, and
But
so
But
and
it,
maybe the
it would have,
numbers kept it going.
yeah, but it would have faded by the 70s. So I guess in the last 2 years, maybe Submariner was selling well enough not to get canceled.
Right.
right.
It was still making money, and they didn't have a
53 is Bill
replacement.
Everett. Like I said, we know he cared.
Right.
Let's see, 52. Like it's just so weird. It's just such, like I said, I to this day people don't. Mike Friedrich script. Bill Everett was doing the rest.
Now,
But
was
like,
Bill the big name of the time period that Kirby left?
no, Bill was a golden age guy.
Right. But was that still
I don't think. I mean, he was a big name with Submariner because he was Submariner's creator. But I don't
right?
know if he was a big name with fans.
I don't think he would have been.
No. But like I said, he clearly cared.
Right.
Jerry Conway and
Bill Everett,
Gene Colan on 46.
for some strange reason, among all of the artists that slaved for Martin Goodman, the only one that Goodman asked about was Everett.
Ah.
You would ask, and he usually Stan how Bill Everett was doing.
Yeah, I have what's the name of that book? Fire and Ice, which is an art book about Bill Everett. And he, like I said, he was thrilled to be doing the Submariner. More Jerry Conway and Marie Severin, Jim Mooney, renderer. Like, was it just like someone's turn every month to do Submariner? But if Bill Everett couldn't get it done or something, was it just a book that somebody had to do?
Right at that stage, Everett was close to the end.
Right. So I'm sure he couldn't do every issue, but it's just like like I said, it's just maybe they kept it alive near the end just for him.
That's a
You're
possibility
right.
too, considering
Even
that you just did mention that it's the only one Goodman ever asked about. So maybe
yeah,
there was something there that when he came back, that was for him. They may have kept that book going just for him, and it just so happened to sell for that time period.
yeah. I mean, there's no shortage of these Submariner books.
Right.
You
So
can
they
always get
printed a
them.
lot.
But it's like no one cares about it. It's so strange. And like I said, when I first discovered that Submariner book in the late 70s, it had just ended probably. No one cared about him back then. It's like if I were to go to like a garage sale or something, there's always just a few Submariner books there. But it's like, and I was the only one I knew who bought them. It was strange. And I knew they weren't great, too. With the impression of JFK, Paulo Costa could win against Trump and Biden.
Or at least against RFK Jr.
And he was even popular after, because Supervillain Team Up, I think, started after Submariner. I'll see what was the last issue of Submariner, what year it was.
Maybe in 1974, position number 62, I think.
I think it went higher than 62, but
or 68.
Yeah, it could have been 68.
Something like that.
Let me see what's the last issue I have. I have it open here. 70 is the last issue I have.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it lasted for 72 issues. And the last one is cover dated September 1974.
So what was this? Did I say this was 74 or 73?
And in that time period, they were trying to get Marvel movies and TV shows off the ground. So
This
Submariner could have been one of those that was slated, so they needed to make sure there was issues being printed.
Right,
This is the
especially
end
because-
74, so they came up with a new Submariner book right away, even.
And they changed his costume to that more superhero-like costume as well.
Right.
So they may have been trying to sell it as a show or something.
Yeah, John Romita designed that one. I think that showed up in some of the later issues of the series. I always kind of liked that costume. I know people don't like it, but I always thought it was all right.
I do. I mean,
Yeah, I was fine with it.
Yeah, it was okay. Those wings.
the man from Atlantis was supposed to be a Submariner show, I think.
The
Hmm.
Patrick Duffy show. Yeah, they
Yeah.
eventually did comics. I think Marvel did
Yeah.
the comics,
Yeah.
and
So
he was this character who could swim in the water and had amnesia. It could have easily been a Namor story because Namor had amnesia when he was reintroduced in the Fantastic Four.
That's right. The Human Torch burning off his beard.
Yep.
I always found that cool. I don't know why. Shave with fire finger.
Shave with fire and has so much control. It's just his whole beard
Yeah.
didn't go right up because
Yeah.
hair is very flammable. I would imagine it would probably be stuff like that where
Yeah,
they
it
were
could have
going to
been.
be some kind of show, so Marvel wanted to make sure a series was, the comic book series was going on. They created Spider Woman because of that Kiss of a Spider Woman play was coming out.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, we got to keep that copyright. So they made Spider Woman. They made She Hulk because they
Right.
sold the Hulk TV show. And so just on a rumor, they were creating characters. They probably did that with the Submariner. And the plus side happened to be, oh, we have the original creator
Yeah.
on here. So that could have been good for the optics.
Who knows?
And again, these are all just guessings about what they
Right.
could have been doing, but it does coincide with some of those things at the same time.
It's a strange thing. And my fascination with it is strange.
yeah, the thing is, there are times when certain characters are popular, and then we don't know, even if they are popular with the creators, if not necessarily with the readers.
Right.
Because everybody wanted to use Namor in the Defenders, as a villain in the Fantastic Four.
He's a
as
good villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a good foil, that it works that way. I remember having a conversation with one of my neighbors back in the 90s. And I had just started working at Marvel, and we were having a conversation. It's like, oh, and she said, she used to buy comics and read comics. She didn't collect them, but she
Right.
remembers buying them and enjoying them. And some of the titles that she named off was like the first one. It just seemed like a lot of people from her time period was all collecting Captain Marvel.
Uh-huh.
And then the next one she said was Namor the Submariner.
Hmm.
So that and here's a person who's she only read the comics. She didn't collect, but
Casual
she's
fan.
finally casual fan who fondly remembered them. Because yes, I read
Yeah.
Marvel. Here are the books that I read, and and said Captain Marvel with Marvel, the way it was pronounced back then, kind of a thing where it was a separate name than just Marvel, and Namor was in that grouping that she talked about. So there was a fan base in that time period.
Yeah,
For
there
it.
had to be. There's
Yeah,
still
with 77 issues, yes.
That's just funny. You never hear from
Yeah, like what I found amazing is how popular Werewolf by Night must have been, because he had to have been popular. They gave him
Yeah.
a monthly comic right away instead of a bi-monthly,
Mhm.
Right.
and he had 5 giant sizes. So he may have been a runaway success, and then all of a sudden, nobody cares about horror. Poof.
Gone. Well, we should say good evening.
Because Frankenstein also gets canceled around that time, and only Dracula lasted for a little while.
Yep.
We should say good evening, since it's about time to say goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Good.
So everybody have a good night out there. Here's some special effects for you.
Yeah. I think they're getting better, the special effects.
Yeah. Or at least they're being activated a lot quicker.
Yeah. And we will catch everyone out there next time.
See
Have
ya.
a good one.
Bye-bye.